Accreditation in business school environments largely only extend to the MBA program, but the Siemens accreditation that we acquired towards the end of 2018 accredits the whole school with all the programs. So they literally vetted every program that we run in the business school, and they were satisfied that it was on an international standard. So we are very proud of that. So there you can see we work in varieties of industry, and we have a good presence in the agricultural space as well. This is the learning path that I referred to earlier, and where you currently find yourself is in this left-hand column, short learning program. In other words, anything that is less than 120 credits. And as you can see, the alignment between our collection of programs is very important. So if you didn't have the privilege to do, for instance, a degree program before you entered the world of work, the short learning program like you are participating in now can most definitely open up the doors for you to further your management studies. We have two examples of students who over the years started without any formal qualification, participated in a short learning program, and then went through the whole learning path from left to right and ended up with PhDs. So we're very proud of executing on that. You shouldn't be bothered if you can't see all the detail. In terms of the value proposition of short learning environment, we roll out management programs, functional programs, and leadership development programs. The main distinction between the functional programs and the leadership programs is that leadership solely focus on human behavior. So the behavioral side of being a leader is very important. And in management programs, we combine the functional leadership programs, and you'll see there towards the edge of the management program is where the new managers program features. So you're participating in a management program. So what is our philosophy for a program like this, ladies and gentlemen? It's twofold. It is organizations do not function in isolation. You are part of a bigger system. And I think the COVID-19 experience has highlighted that to a very, very large extent, and that is that we are not isolated. We don't sit on an island in our office. Our businesses don't function in isolation. And there's this beautiful story that I always like to tell to just illustrate this. And this is that when the British colonials first entered in India, they were confronted on arrival with cobras, you know, snakes, and it was a bit of a problem. All the soldiers were scared of the cobras, and some of them got bitten and died because it's a very poisonous cobra, and that king cobra is a very large and intimidating snake. And one of the innovative soldiers then came up to his superior and he said, "Sir, I have a brilliant idea on how to get rid of the cobra problem." And the superior said, "Yes, let's hear." He said, "Let's start an incentive program." And the incentive would then be to bring dead cobras, and they would then pay the locals for every dead cobra that is then brought. And for a while that worked well, and there was a steady supply of cobras, and at one stage the supply actually dropped, which means that there were less cobras out in the system. And then all of a sudden supply spiked. In other words, they soon found there outside their command center queues and queues of people standing in line with dead cobras, expecting their reward. So the guy in charge said, no, there's something's not right here. The supply of cobras are outstripping the program budget. We need to have a look at what's going on here. And upon investigation, that they discovered that one innovative local Indian guy started a cobra breeding farm. And that is what happens, ladies and gentlemen, if you interfere in systems, or if you effect change in a system. You have to understand that a system comprises of multiple components and subsystems, and then a change in one part of the system will have knock-on effects and changes to other parts of the system. And to conclude with that story, um, they obviously then pulled the plug on the whole program, because the local guy was manipulating the system to his own benefit. But what then happened is, when there was no more money in dead cobras, he released all the cobras from the breeding farm. So the British ultimately ended up with more cobras in the system than they started off with. And as a manager, ladies and gentlemen, that is in principle a very important lesson, is that you have to understand that if you are expected to effect change through strategic choices in your organization, or if you are the one driving change internally itself, you cannot take a singular view. You have to take complexity into consideration. You have to consider all the stakeholders involved when you make decisions. Otherwise, decisions made with very good intentions can come and bite you in the backside. The British colonials thought that they would do some skill development, that they would do some local economic development, some job creation, social upliftment in the process, and there was good intentions apart from just reducing the amount of cobras in the system, but ultimately there were some unintended consequences of their decisions. Now, if you read this famous quote about Jack Welch, who said, when the rate of change outside exceeds the rate of change inside your organization, that is, the end is in sight. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic did just that. Organizations were used to doing business. They've been doing it for a while. They were not geared to align with a new world of work, new business environment, and consequently have paid the price. And we need, as managers and leaders in our organization, to understand that, because ultimately, when we talk about strategy, it is the role of management and leadership in the organization to align all the different variables and complexities to move the organization from where they currently find themselves, and to help realize the organization's vision that might be in place. And as a supervisor, ladies and gentlemen, it's your role to make sure that you contribute to aligning systems, work processes, human resource contributions, your leadership style, staff, policies, organizational structure, so that every arrow in your model points toward your business's desired state. We can't have a ship with several sails, and all those sails are not pointing in the same direction to get the most effect from the wind. So to illustrate this point, ladies and gentlemen, there's also another story that I also enjoy sharing with students, and that is about this Harvard Business School professor who was doing research on strategy execution at NASA. Now, you're familiar with NASA, the space agency, and his work was to just observe and see people go about their business on a daily basis. But there was one particular guy who impressed him very much with his diligence and his focus. And this guy was a cleaner, and he was working in one of the high-tech laboratories. And at one stage, the professor just couldn't help himself, and he went up to the cleaner, and he asked him. He said, "Sir, what is your job here at NASA?" And you can just think for yourself, if you go up to a cleaner in the company that you work for, and you go and ask him and you say, what's your job here at say, for instance, VKB, the probability that you'll get an answer as I'm a cleaner is very good, eh? But the profound answer that this guy gave the Harvard Business School professor was, when asked what his job at NASA is, he says, my job at NASA is to help make sure that we get a man to the moon. And the profoundness lies within the fact that the guy on the ground understood exactly how his contribution will assist the organization to realize its vision. He understood that if his cleaning contribution in the high-tech lab is not of the most perfect quality and standard, it could cause a space shuttle to explode on its way up to the moon, being the vision of his organization. So as we go through this new managers program, ladies and gentlemen, everything that we do, we're going to confront you with the question of how do you align what you do with your organization's vision? So you will be expected to go and do some research and find out, what is my organization's vision? What are our mission? What are our strategic objectives? How are we measuring these objectives? What are our targets? And then ultimately, where I work, how am I contributing to the organization achieving its targets? And it sounds simple, but every year we ask this question of the students, and they find it extremely difficult to go and find those answers. And there are multiple reasons for it. Sometimes this information is not that well documented in your organization. But you cannot as a supervisor or a manager in your business motivate and align your staff's effort accurately with what the business wants to achieve if you don't understand that alignment yourself. Okay, so enough on that topic. We'll talk more about that as we go through the program. The other important thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that you have to realize that being a manager or a leader or a supervisor in your organization requires a different skill set. It requires that you value different pieces of work differently, and it also means that your time is spent differently. So here's the classical example that I always use. Say, for instance, you are selling cars, and you are the star salesman. Every month, every year, you win all the awards because you have the ability to sell the most cars. You're the best salesperson in your organization. What logically happens in organizations, and because people have career aspirations, is that the best salesmen very often find themselves becoming the sales team leader, or a sales manager for that sake as well then. And then a month, 2, 3 months within his new role, the wheels come off. All of a sudden, his work environment changed. So the work that he valued, for instance, was to make X amount of calls on a daily basis, work his relationship, work his network, give excellent customer service, being very efficient and affecting sales. But during all of that work, he only had to look after himself. And all of a sudden, he is now responsible for 10 or 20 people's sales figures. But he's never been in a position, or he's never went through a development curve to say, listen, but all of a sudden I now need new skills. I need to plan differently. I need to look at each individual in my team and say, okay, but how do I get the best out of this individual? How are they motivated? And I mean, you've seen these examples. They're a star player in the team, and as soon as they become a leader or a manager, their they don't know how to deal with the conflict, they don't know how to deal with the pressure and all these things. So you have to appreciate the fact that you're going to go through a serious amount of personal transition, personal growth, personal development. And what we do on this program is we force you to hold up that mirror. Um, but like we also say is we can take you you can take a horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink. Hey, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be intrinsically motivated to become a better human being. Learn to appreciate your own intricacies, your own likes and dislikes, your own preferences. Because if you don't understand your personality and have an appreciation for that, there's no way that you will have a deep appreciation for the diversity in your team and what makes everybody special. Because ultimately, we're all part in a team of one big puzzle that needs to execute on our objectives. But all the pieces of the puzzle needs to fit. And it's the role of the manager or the supervisor to make that happen. So that is going to be a primary driver of how do we help you to convert from being an individual to being a team or an unit leader and manager. We've spoken about the action learning approach that we take. In other words, everything that we do in our discussions, in our activities, in how we assess you, is to create an environment where you can go and experiment with your new knowledge. Let's take a simple example. If you, for instance, during the session that you're going to deal with organizational strategy, we're going to force you to go and get your hands on your organization's strategic information, on your departmental plan, on your set of key performance indicators, so that you can understand the alignment. And what you should also probably do is go and have conversations with your line manager or your team members to consolidate their understanding of the strategy and where you guys fit in. So we'll give you the theoretical background, but it will be in your hands to go and experiment with that. And that also, as Jonathan will speak to you about later, is how you collect evidence of your learning on the program. And that evidence needs to be filed in a portfolio. It is also an essential part of the year-end presentation that you will be required to do. So that presentation is all about what have I learned on the program, what have I experimented with, what worked, what didn't work, why didn't it work, and what did I learn from all of this. And you'll collect these stories, you'll collect this evidence as you go along by completing your actions, collecting evidence, and keeping a detailed record of such. So yes, like I just said, then to summarize, the main objectives is to help people cross over to management, from looking after yourself to giving you the tools and the skills to look after your team, and then also to convert your learning into practice. We've also then confirmed that the rate of change, this whole VUCA environment, is driving continuous alignment in our organizations. And you find yourself as the first line of management in your organization, probably, you find yourself in a position where it is required of you to help your people make sense of these changes. It's on ground level where we have our employees that are customer facing. There where we engage with our clients, it's important that they understand what they do, how they should do it, how they should value the customer, and ultimately how their efforts are contributing to the organizational success. That relevance in the world of work is tremendously important. So in terms of the program overview, on a very high level, The program is run in themes. Firstly, like we said, we start with ourselves and then we move over to the team under the leading people theme. Then we need to say, okay, but from a strategy, from an economic environment, a um, from a leading change perspective, we have to look at our employee engagement, our change management skills. We need to also be able to execute the instructions that we have through sound project management principles. So all of that happens in the second block under leading change. We also equip you with skills to better plan and align your operations and logistics, but very importantly, understand the finances behind it. And that takes place in our leading operations module. Given this digital era that we're functioning in, it's very important that you understand the basics of the marketing environment, specifically with all the digital channels that are at our disposal, what opportunities, but very importantly also, how do they expose us in terms of risk. And then we close out your program with some knowledge on the basics of labor relations. We're not training attorneys, but we need to provide managers with the basic skills to look after the disciplinary environment within their organizations. So like I already mentioned, you are now busy with a short learning program in the form of a new managers program, and that aligns into our high certificate management development, and there's recognition that you get into that program should you wish to in future continue with our certificate as well. How the program is structured, and I'm working my way towards handing over to Jonathan now. But the center circle are you're the individual, the delegate on the program. We are going to expect of you to connect with workplace mentors. So those are the people that will guide the actions that you try to implement in the workplace. Jonathan will say more about that. You also have the support of Jonathan himself as your coach to ensure that there's alignment between what you learn and what you practice in the workplace. And then obviously we have an excellent complement of facilitators, people who are experts in their field that will guide you through all the different subject matter and assist you on your learning journey. So from my side, good luck. I really hope you enjoy the program. I can with an open conscience, a clear conscience, I can tell you that this program has changed people's lives. We see students starting off this program sort of trying to find their way in the business environment, looking for direction, looking for a development opportunity, and we see them 6 to 8 months later, and you can't believe the growth that they've gone through. And that's my wish for you. Like I said, I hope you have a mindset that you're intrinsically motivated, and you know what, all the other benefits, all the external stuff, the certificate against the wall, on the qualification on your CV, the promotion, the additional money, all of that will come in any case if your point of departure it's just that internal drive to become a better employee, more productive, more value adding. So on that note, Jonathan, I'm going to hand over to you. You're more than welcome at this stage to ask any questions, ladies and gentlemen. Anything before I hand over to Jonathan? Any questions? You can just raise your hand. Are we all good? Everybody that's good, raise their hand. There's a button there on your control panel that you can raise your hand with. Oh, fabulous. Yeah, and I think from my side, I think the final message is this is going to be a new experience for you. We used to going to classrooms, working with facilitators. Don't get stuck. Work with Marie, work with Jonathan. If you don't get joy, come to me. and let's see how we can make this a very, very life-changing experience for you. All right, Jonathan, over to you then.
All right, morning guys, how are you all doing? Just let's do a sound check. If you can hear me, can you give me a hands up on your screen there? Let me see what we have. There we go. Actually, I see real hands going up, not just emojis. Okay, good. I'm going to put my slide presentation on. Let's sit there and open my window. Hold on a second for that. Will you guys, there we go. All right, I hope you can see the presentation on your screen. I'm going to ask you to just engage with me a little here. And do you see, hopefully you see on your screen right now a diagram. It says background or something on it and a couple of circles, but it's actually a picture hopefully of what your screen looks like. And I'm looking for you to pick up this little panel on your screen over here. Can you see it? If you see it, there's a little icon there that says chat. Hopefully on my screen you're following me right now and we're on the same thing. There's a little
Jonathan,
chat icon. If
yes,
you guys,
yeah, I can confirm that we can see everything.
good. Will you guys click on that chat icon for me, please, and just give me a 1 in the chat so I can just see who's here and what you and where we are. Thanks, Dion. Good. We've got Annalene, Carl, Monica. I've got 3 people here. Let's get some more. Ernst joined the chat. Nice. Good to see you there. We got Mashuluane, Siamo, Kenneth. All right. Good. Keep it going, guys. I'm going to ask you some questions and I want to see some of your responses as well. We're going to use that chat to do that. Okay. All right. Firstly, from me as coach, Jonathan Jensen is the name, and it's great to welcome you here to this program as well. Thanks, Dion, for that nice high-level overview as well. I love it when we go through these slides here. It always makes us feel part of something bigger. We might be sitting in our offices or at home, but it's good to feel part of something big. That's the Free State Business School. Yeah, so welcome to that. And I think it's good that we're on this journey, and I think it's a fascinating time to be on this journey doing the NMP program online. That's a new experience. Tell me who's for who here. Give me a 1 in the chat if this is your first time doing an online learning program. Let me see here.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Apologies, I don't have a chat icon on my bar.
Oh, I see. Okay. Maybe some.
I also don't have one.
Me neither.
Okay.
And I'm struggling to also put on my comment.
Oh, okay. Do you guys have a raise your hand button?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, hit that. Who's the first time they're doing an online learning program here? Give me a hand. Or you can just shout yes if your mic's all on. Wow, okay. Yeah, I get the vibe that that's what's going on here. For a lot of people, this is the first time we're doing something online. Great. Okay, good. Here's another question. Who feels that 2020 is a year that's bringing in a lot of change? There's two opinions. Hold on before you raise your hand. There's a couple of people that feel that 2020 is bringing in change, ushering in change. It's going to disrupt the way we work, the way we learn for the foreseeable future. And there's a lot of people who believe that this is just something temporary, and in about a year or so, things will get back to normal. So which camp are you in? Or who's in the things will get back to normal camp in about a year or so? Raise your hand or give me a 1 in the chat. Let me see. I think I got one there. I actually can't see the hands go up. All right, who's in the camp that thinks there's something is changing? They can't exactly put their finger on it, but there's definitely something changing. Let's see what we've got. Give me a 1 or a yes or a. See 1, a hand up. Okay, the inclination seems to be that there's more activity around the question that some change is taking place. Okay, yeah, I'm in that camp as well. I'm not trying to shake things up. I like my comforts and I like things to be normal, but I've got a feeling that it's time for us to be aware of what's going to happen next. And I think a lot of research for where we're headed hasn't been done yet. And we have to think on our feet and make decisions fast. Way too much uncertainty. That's what Tiamo says there. No, I agree with you. Definitely a lot of uncertainty. And people will be looking to leaders to give them a sense of certainty. Just to look to, people are looking to people like school teachers for a sense of certainty. How much more so would they be looking to you as managers or leaders? Okay, good. So Dion was talking about changing our approach, finding internal motivation, and I can't agree more on a program where there's a lot of uncertainty going on. There's a lot of job uncertainty going on. We're learning in new ways. And a lot of it's going to come down to your personal internal motivation. And so in the light of that, I'm going to ask you on our first exercise here, I'm going to change my screen to the next slide. Good. In the light of that, I'm going to ask you to change a few settings. And these settings are all entirely in your mind. And the first one is this. On your screen should be a simple picture that just says A to B. And when you're doing an online learning program, you may feel that the objective is to get from A to B. In other words, to the end of the module, to pass the quiz or something like that. But that's really not, because you can't take that with you. The fact that you got to the end of a module really fast. On an online learning program, your journey is actually what you're getting out of it is all these little dots. It's the journey in between the A and the B. And it's entirely up to you to decide how you're going to approach this program. Is your objective to open a module, see that there's a lot of words, try and get through it as fast as possible to the quiz, mark it as done, and move on to the next thing? If that's your objective, you're missing the objectives of being on a new manager's program. And I can tell you from those that have been in class, and I've done this coaching for a while, that people that participate in this program do really, really well for themselves over the space of the year. So I'm going to encourage you guys, change a setting in your minds. When you find yourself online, clicking through the things as fast as you possibly can, you're missing out on a lot. I'm going to really encourage you to make a mental change and do that settings change in your head. Grab as much as you can along the way. It's a little bit more difficult to do on an online learning program, but only you can make that decision to make that happen. Okay, the next one. Tell me, are you guys still here? Can I get a one or a hands up? Just want to see what's going on. I feel like I'm talking to a voicemail. Yeah, we still got Monica's still online here. Good. Okay, I'm going to head to my next slide. You should. Oops, that's a slide with a sound effect on it. Okay. Can you see a picture of a little man with a man on the screen in a triangle or something like that? Okay, so what I'm illustrating here is that a very small change in your mind, just a small, is the amount of leverage that when you change the way you think, the effect on the ground is massive. And I'll tell you when I discovered this, and it's very relevant for people on the NMP. I was busy marking somebody's work, and this assignment was requesting, forget the subject, the principle is the thing that stands out here. I was busy marking somebody's work, and the assignment required them to do two things. The one was to use the theory from that course to analyze their workplace, to make some determination about what was going on. And then the second half of the assignment was to come up with a plan. And as I was going through the assignment, I was thinking, this person's definitely read all the theory. The answers look right, but something was missing. And what bothered me in the assignment were words like, management must do X, Y, Z. Management needs to stop. Our organization needs to do this, and our organization needs to stop X, Y, Z. I thought, I suppose it would be good if those changes did come into effect, but is that really a plan? Is that really you effecting change, or is that the sound or the language of a person waiting for stuff to happen? And I realized this person hasn't made a mental switch in their minds yet that they are management. They're waiting for management. They're on a management program. They're asking to come up with a plan. And the plan is, I'm waiting for management to do something. I thought, what a sad pity. And I wish I could have just said something to that person in that moment, but I was just sitting there with an assignment and writing, and We didn't have any way of connecting at that point. So I'm going to ask you guys to make a mental switch today in your heads to be the person that proposes solutions, that comes up with ideas. The very fact that you're working for a place means you're working for an idea. Somebody came up with an idea. That's how a business started or a department started. That's put people to work. It's created a situation where wages can be paid. It's all built around an idea, and everybody working there buys into that idea. You could be the person that comes up with ideas instead of waiting for ideas or being upset that people haven't come up with better ideas. And that's a very small change to make in your mind. So I'm going to ask you to physically make this mental change. I want you to look inside your mind, pretend you roll your eyes back and look up inside your head. And by the way, if you think this is weird, wait till you get onto the leadership module. There's going to be lots of time for looking at yourself today. I guarantee it. So look inside your mind. I want you to see if you can find a switch there. And that switch should be something like, I can be a manager. It should say something like, I can lead, even with my personality or as I am. I can lead, or I can be the person that comes up with ideas. There's got to be a switch on that somewhere in your mind, and I want you to just flick it. If you haven't made that switch already that says, I am management, I can be management, people want to work with me, people will respect my ideas. Maybe you don't believe that, but just start the process by flicking that switch today before we get onto this new managers program. Okay, if you've made that flick, if you've made that switch, or if you've made some sort of idea in your mind that you're going to do that, good start on the managers program today. So now that we've changed our settings, I hope we have. One is that it's not about the getting from A to B, it's definitely about the journey. The next one is that switch. I want to share with you what's on the slide here. This time, and Dion mentioned it today, is going to require new ways of thinking. You need to dare to believe that you can do things differently. And finding new ways to do things is what's going to separate leaders from everybody else. Where we're headed, if you believe that this is a time of change and uncertainty, it's going to need navigators. There's no template. There's no straightforward way of doing this. Nobody has figured out what we will do in a post-COVID world, or nobody knows for sure what it's going to look like. But we want to see people that are coming up with ideas that aren't just sitting still waiting for things to happen. Business can't deal with that kind of approach. Okay, that's my orientation to the new managers program. I really want you to start thinking and feeling like you're leaders. There are people that have put you on this course or have allowed you to take time out of work to be on this course. Are we all here? I'm getting sound coming through. All right, good. Can I get a hands up or a signal in the chat if we're all still here and we've got my audio coming through? I'm not seeing any activity. Are we here? Here we go. Got a smiley face from Michelle Wane. Anneline Cole still here. Okay, good. Glad to see you guys. Some of you are still going on. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next part of my presentation. And this is more about the nitty-gritty of the program. Maybe go, Nicoline, Tiamo. Right, good. Thanks, guys. I'm going to move on to the next part of the program here. Just waiting for my slides to advance. Okay, for the next part of my presentation, it's basically going to be videos about the NMP, and it's a little bit of admin and it's a little bit of policy and procedure as well. Okay, so we're going kind of doing a gear shift now. We're getting into the sort of the action of the program. This is about how the program is run, and this is your orientation to our approach as well. If you're ready, I'm going to click play on the rules. I hope you've got your sound on and you can hear what's going on clearly. So just hang tight as we go through a couple of these video presentations. Here come the rules of the program. Is my system sound on? Tell me if you hear any sound, please. Anybody
Not
with
yet,
this, Marie or Dion?
Not yet.
Just tell me now. Anything come through yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm going to make a setting change here.
No, I'm not hearing anything, Jonathan.
Okay. I'm going to just stop sharing for a second. Share again. Let me just hear now.
General UFS and faculty rules.
Yes, we're good.
Okay, good. All right, so let's hit it.
General rules. Students are personally responsible for being well informed and for complying with general rules and faculty rules. Upon registration, a student undertakes to abide by the general UFS and faculty rules, as amended from time to time. Attendance rules. It is the responsibility of the student to ensure that he or she received the timetable. A minimum class attendance of 80% is required for the entire program. Should the student not adhere to 80%, he or she will not be allowed to complete the program, and no access to the final presentation will be granted. The student will receive an incomplete for the program and have to redo the entire program and pay the full fee thereof. An apology for non-attendance due to unforeseen circumstances must be accompanied by supporting documentation and presented to the program coordinator as soon as possible, but no later than 5 working days after the missed sessions. It is the student's responsibility to catch up on all work that he or she missed. Assessment. Assignments. It is the responsibility of the student to ensure that he or she has received the submission due dates. Submission times are midnight on the due date. Assignments have to be typed and submitted electronically on the Learner Management System, Canvas. No emailed submissions will be accepted. Assignments submitted without the prescribed cover page will not be accepted. Late submissions will not be accepted and be regarded as non-submission, and subsequently the student will receive 0% and an incomplete for the program and have to redo the assessment the following year at an additional cost. No extensions will be granted except in the case where a valid doctor's letter is provided to the program coordinator no later than 5 working days after the assignment due date. The pass mark for assignments is 50%. A minimum of 40% is required in order to resubmit a failed assignment. One opportunity to resubmit the assignment will be granted, and a student cannot receive more than 50% for a resubmission. Should the student fail the resubmission, he or she will receive an incomplete for the program and have to redo the assessment the following year at an additional cost. For non-submissions, the student will receive an incomplete for the program and have to redo the assessment the following year at an additional cost. You have to submit and pass the assignments in order to qualify for the online test where applicable. Assessment, portfolio of evidence. It is the responsibility of the student to ensure that he or she has received the submission due dates. Submission times are midnight on the due date. Portfolio of evidence documents must be submitted electronically on the Learner Management System, Canvas. No emailed submissions will be accepted. Late submissions will not be accepted and be regarded as non-submission, and subsequently the student will receive 0% and an incomplete for the program and have to do the assessment over the following year at an additional cost. No extensions will be granted except in the case where a valid doctor's letter is provided to the program coordinator no later than 5 working days after the assignment due date. The pass mark for portfolio of evidence submissions is 50%. A minimum of 40% is required in order to resubmit a failed assessment. One opportunity to resubmit the assessment will be granted, and a student cannot receive more than 50% for a resubmission. Should the student fail the resubmission, he or she will receive an incomplete for the program and have to redo the assessment the following year at an additional cost. For non-submissions, the student will receive an incomplete for the program and have to redo the assessment the following year at an additional cost. Assessment. Online tests. Online assessments are applicable for modules which qualify for recognition of prior learning to the higher certificate. The assessment weighting for these modules will be structured as follows. Assignment 50%, online test 50%. It is the responsibility of the student to ensure that he or she received the online assessment's due dates. Closing times are midnight on the due date. Online assessments have to be completed on the learner management system, Canvas. Late assessments will not be accepted and be regarded as a non-submission, and subsequently the student will receive 0% and will not qualify for recognition of prior learning. No extensions will be granted except in the case where a valid doctor's letter is provided to the program coordinator no later than 5 working days after the assessment due date. The pass mark for online assessments is 50%. A minimum of 40% is required in order to resubmit a failed assessment. One supplementary assessment will be granted, and a student cannot receive more than 50% for a supplementary. Should you fail the supplementary assessment, you will not qualify for recognition of prior learning. Assessment. Online participation. In the case where the entire program is presented online, the total weighting of 60% for assignments will be structured as follows. 40% for assignments and 20% for continuous online participation via activities, quizzes, and discussions. In the case where only certain modules of the program are presented online, the total weighting for assignments and online participation will be advised accordingly. It is the responsibility of the student to ensure that he or she received the submission due dates. Submission times are midnight on the due date. Activities, discussions, and quizzes have to be submitted electronically on the learner management system, Canvas. No emailed submissions will be accepted. Late submissions will not be accepted and be regarded as non-submission, and subsequently the student will receive 0% for the assessment. No extensions will be granted except in the case where a valid doctor's letter is submitted to the program coordinator no later than 5 working days after the due date. The pass mark for online assessment is 50%. An average of 50% for the assessments must be obtained in order to pass the program. Should an average of 50% not be obtained, the student will receive an incomplete for the program and have to redo the assessment the following year at additional cost. Assessment. Presentation. It is the responsibility of the student to ensure that he or she received the submission due date. Submission times are midnight on the due date. Late submissions will not be accepted and will be regarded as non-submission, and subsequently the student will receive 0% and an incomplete for the program and have to redo the assessment the following year at an additional cost. No extensions will be granted except in the case where a valid doctor's letter is provided to the program coordinator no later than 5 working days after the submission due date. An apology for not presenting due to unforeseen circumstances must be accompanied by corroborative documentation to the program coordinator before the presentation date. The pass mark for the presentation is 50%. Should the student fail the presentation, one opportunity to present again will be granted, for which the student can receive a maximum of 50%. Should the student fail the presentation a second time, he or she will receive an incomplete for the program and have to redo the assessment the following year at an additional cost. Plagiarism. A student who presents the work of another individual as their own, i.e., written sources, visual sources, multimedia products, music, the spoken word, etc., will be guilty of plagiarism and receive 0% for the assessment and therefore not gain access to the presentation, receive an incomplete for the program, and have to redo the assessments the following year at an additional cost. Any matters relating to plagiarism will be dealt with in terms of the institutional rules and policies of the University of the Free State. Results. A student may discuss the results of the assessment with a facilitator within 5 working days after the results have been released. Incomplete. If the student failed one or more assessments, he or she will have to redo the assessments the following year at an additional cost. If the student failed all assessments, he or she will have to pay the full program fee. Certificate. These are the requirements for successful completion of the program. 80% attendance. Submit and pass all assessments. The program must be completed within 2 consecutive years. Pass online assessments, or should you fail the supplementary assessments, you will not qualify for recognition of prior learning for the specific modules. Pass with distinction. The certificate is awarded with distinction if the student meets the following requirements. Obtained a weighted total average of at least 75%, not rounded to the next integer. Completed the program within the minimum period of 1 year, and did not resubmit or fail any assessment during the program. Declaration. The student declares to have read this document, to have understood its contents, and to have agreed to the above-mentioned rules. Where the employer is the sponsor of studies, the University of the Free State Business School may share details about attendance, results, and performance with the employer. You are reminded that upon registration and enrollment to this program, you are bound to the above rules.
Great. I hope you had as much fun listening to that as I had reading that. The next videos won't be as long as that. This won't be the rules video again, is it? Let's discuss mentor selection.
New Managers Program, Mentor Selection. An important objective of our methodology is to close the loop when it comes to workplace application of what you have learned in the program. Evidence of this learning process is captured in what we refer to as a portfolio of evidence, or POE in short. Your POE represents proof of your learning throughout the NMP and therefore forms an integral part of your continuous assessment on the program. A structured process is followed for compiling the POE. It consists of a series of logical steps which are complemented by a set of templates to be completed. In an effort to ensure alignment between program activity and the workplace, you are required to link with a specific person with whom you will engage as you progress through the program. This person will be known as your mentor. Your mentor plays a very important role in creating a link between your classroom learning and your workplace application of your learning. The interaction with your mentor will be based on the following activities. Keeping the person informed of your progress.
I'm getting some audio. Somebody else coming through here?
Structured process is followed for compiling the steps which are complemented by a set of templates to be completed. In an effort to ensure alignment between program activity and the workplace, you are required to link with a specific person with whom you will engage as you progress through the program. This person will be known as your mentor. Your mentor plays a very important role in creating the link between your classroom learning and your workplace application of your learning. The interaction with your mentor will be based on the following activities. Keeping the person informed of your progress. Sharing what you have learned in a specific block of lectures. Discussing the action plans you have drawn up at the end of a block of lectures with the purpose of receiving guidance and/or assistance with the implementation of these action plans. Discussing your assignments with your mentor, as well as getting your assignment signed off by your mentor before submission. The most important quality you are looking for in a mentor is that he or she must be someone who will take a personal interest in your growth and development. In addition to this, your mentor should be somebody that is senior enough in your organization to assist with removing obstacles to your development. We trust this information provides you with the insight into selecting the appropriate person to work with for the duration of this program. Make sure that you and your mentor enter into a formal agreement. We have provided the mentorship agreement for you as one of your templates. The main points of that agreement are as follows. The mentor leads discussions, signs off on your assignments, but ultimately you, the student, are responsible for your development. As a student, you should initiate the discussions and ask for assistance. You should let your mentor know about your responsibilities. Finally, allow enough time for your mentor to sign off before your due dates.
Good. Okay, before I proceed, that's been a lot of information so far. I hope something that's standing out at this point is that this program is run very differently from a normal academic program. There's a lot of workplace integration, and this mentor is a key person in the program to you. Maybe some of you have already got yourselves mentors or people that is assigned as mentors already. If I may ask, if I can just get a show of hands, who's already aware of the mentor aspect of the program or has a mentor assigned to them? Can you just sort of give me an indication in the chat with the hands that you have a mentor, that you know that there's going to be a mentor as part of the program? You all good with that? I'm not seeing a lot of activity in response to that question. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I have one. There we go. Raymond's got. Okay. So the key thing with this, with the idea of the mentor is there's a lot of stuff that you'll be doing on this program that will be going via your mentor. And that means when you finish a block or a group of classes, you're going to get back to work and you're going to implement something that you learned. And then you're going to be talking to your mentor about these are the things I'm going to implement. And that person will sign off a conversation that you had and says, yes, I agree that that's what's going to happen. And yeah, so this is going to be a key person that you're going to have to work with in the program. And you'll be looking for that person's input on your work. Let's carry on with the rest of these videos. By the way, everything that I've put on is also, if you go through, when you get to your learning management system today, all of these videos are placed separately with a little description. And if there's something that you need to download or a document it refers to, it's right there with these videos as well. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. It has to do with your assessments, structure and weighting. So this is how you're going to be assessed. Let's hear it.
New Managers Program Assessment Weighting for the online program. The various components of your NMP assessments are weighted as follows. The portfolio of evidence consisting of your AML documents, 10%. Your assignments will make up 40% of your final mark. Take note that some assignments are done individually and others are done in groups. Your online participation is also assessed through quizzes, online discussions, and so on. These will comprise 20% of your final mark. Lastly, your final presentation is worth 30% of the final mark. Keep in mind that your presentation is based on what you practically implemented during the year as captured in your AML templates.
Okay.
New Managers Program.
Okay, so all of your, at the end of each block, you're going to do a couple of things. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up a plan of action, something that you plan to implement based on what you learned that block. That goes through your mentor, and you may have heard me refer to AML. So that's your action plan is A. Mentor is the next step. You're going to discuss that action plan with your mentor. And then you heard the word L. You'll be also reflecting at the end of each block what you learned personally through that. And we give you little forms and templates just to fill in what your action plan is, what your discussion with your mentor is, as well as how you what you personally learned throughout the program. Let's have a look at how we keep all of this together. With all of this information, your action plan, your mentor conversation, it's a lot of info that goes on Canvas and to and from the coordinator, and we keep it marked clearly with these cover pages, and then this video discusses that.
New Managers Program cover pages. This video presentation deals with the practical issue of cover pages. The business school uses cover pages for assignments and your portfolio of evidence templates. This helps us keep everything orderly and tidy. We use different cover pages for different assessments, such as your assignments or your portfolio of evidence. When our program coordinators get ready to receive everybody's assignments and portfolios, this is the picture that they have in their mind. But the reality looks more like this. Each student submits various assignments, attachments, sometimes in multiple emails, etc. Multiply this over various groups of NMP students and you'll understand the problem. When all the assessments come in, the coordinator still needs to allocate them to the correct lecturers and assessors. So that's why we give you cover pages, to make sure that the right paperwork stays connected with the right student and the right subject. So take note of the different cover pages that you've been given and use the correct ones. Thanks.
Okay, and here's this next presentation outlines the portfolio of evidence, the POE that you refer to a lot. This is something that you'll be working with me on specifically. So while you might be kicking off with leadership today and meeting your lecturer next, you'll be doing an assignment for that subject. You'll also be, for every block, regardless of the subjects that you have in that block, you'll be working with me on your portfolio of evidence. So pay attention to this. This video describes how that all works and how it all fits in together with the program.
The New Managers Program Portfolio of Evidence. By now you know that the NMP is not merely an academic course. By design, it integrates management theory with workplace experience. So, how do we practically assess your ability to integrate theory at work? We do that by requiring you to build a portfolio of evidence. In this video presentation, we will explain the most important aspects of that. During each block, you will cover a variety of business subjects. In block 1, it's just one subject, leadership. In other blocks, there are more subjects. While you work through the theory for that block, we expect you to identify something that stands out, something that you believe is useful and implementable. We want you to be able to take some of that theory with you to work and implement it there. And we're quite specific about how we want you to do that, so pay attention. Essentially, the process is as follows. Complete the block, and during that block, identify course theory that you want to implement back at work. Then plan exactly how you wish to implement this. We refer to this plan as your action plan. You will produce and implement at least 3 action plans per block. That's 3 plans per block, not 3 plans per subject. You discuss these plans with your mentor and then you implement them. At the end of the block, you'll tell us what you learned in the process. To capture this process, we've provided you with the necessary templates. You will document this process on these templates and file them in your portfolio of evidence. Let's take a look at each template. First up, the action plan. After completing a block, your first task is to formulate an action plan. This plan outlines something that you intend to do throughout the duration of the block back at work. Let's clarify what the action plan is and is not. The action plan is not about things that you would have done at work anyway. It's also not any idea that you'd like to implement. Rather, the action plan is related to the theory, the things that you learned on the course during that block. It's an opportunity to take something from your course and bring it back to work and apply it there. Remember, your big presentation at the end of the year is based on what you implemented. So set yourself up well for that big day. So let's make sure you get off on the front foot with proper action plans. This is where all the magic starts. This is your action plan template. The questions at the top of each column will guide you. Here are some examples of action plans. These are great examples because the actions are specific. They set out clearly what the student intends to do. These are actual examples from past students. What makes them such good examples? Well, they're based on theory. Once reading these plans, it's very clear what the student plans to do. And they set the student up well for implementing theory at course and gathering evidence of their implementation. Yes, capturing evidence of implementation is an essential part of this process. Let's have a look at some of these action plans and see how one would gather evidence and file away in a portfolio. Let's start with the first point, create an induction process. Well, how would you do that? If you were going to invite people to an induction, you would have probably done it by email. So print that email or print the replies. You could take a picture of the actual meeting itself. You could print out the minutes, etc. Point number 2, determine the maturity quadrant of my subordinates. Well, that may sound like theory, but once you've done the leadership course, it'll make perfect sense to you. But this is an exercise that you can do on paper. So file that piece of paper in your portfolio of evidence. Adapt my leadership style with my subordinates. Well, here you would have to keep a journal of how you did that. And this is based on the action plan prior, determining the maturity quadrants. In this case, the student would have determined the maturity quadrants of her colleagues, his or her colleagues, and then adapted the leadership style, keeping a journal of how that all happened. That's evidence. And here we have some examples of not so great action plans. What's wrong with them? Let's have a look. The first one, communication. Really, what actually is the plan here? The word communication hardly specifies a specific action. Improve motivation of the workforce. Well, that sounds good, but how would you keep evidence of that? How would you keep evidence of what the motivation was like before and what it is like now? So let's keep plans a little bit more simple than that. Conduct a merger and acquisition. Yeah, right. Don't try to implement convoluted, complicated plans. Stick with theory that you've learned on the course and things that are simple to implement and keep evidence of. Let's have a look at some more examples. Some are good, some are not. Can you identify which ones are good? Well done. Planning is obviously not a specific action. It doesn't really describe what the person plans to do back at work. Number 2 is good. Develop a strategic plan with my division. That's brilliant. And how would you keep evidence of that? Well, you could print out the plan. Better change management. That's a bit vague. I get the idea. There's some good intent. But how would you keep evidence of that? And what exactly is the specific action that you'd like to implement? I would recommend that the person puts that under the why column, why they intend on doing it, and then be a bit more specific about what it is exactly that they would like to do back at work. So maybe the acid test for a good action plan is the following. Could a complete stranger, upon reading your plan, understand what you will actually do? Have a look at these plans and see if you can spot the good ones from the bad. Well, if you spotted number 2 as a good one, well done. Let's talk about the rest. Have a vision. Once again, not a specific plan. Number 2, conduct a SWOT analysis with my team. After reading that, I can clearly understand what it is that the person planned to do back at work. Procurement procedures. I'm not sure if I understand exactly what the person intends to do. That's not really a specific action, is it? Do stock take? Well, that is a specific action, but I would ask, is that really related to the theory on the course? We don't really discuss doing a stock take on this course. So that sounds to me like just something that the person was going to do at work anyway. And that's not what the action plans are about. Customer service, once again, that's not specific. Outline exactly what you'd like to do to improve customer service, or outline an initiative that you'd like to take with your customers. That would be specific. The remaining 2 templates are a bit simpler. For your mentor conversation, you keep a record of what you and your mentor discussed. Remember, a stranger will be reading what you've written, so whatever you write, make sure that he or she will understand what you and your mentor spoke about. And finally, your learning experiences template. What did you personally learn after completing your assignment or your action plan? Maybe your action plan was a great success. Maybe it's still in process. Maybe it didn't work out quite as planned. All of these are part of the learning experience. And we want to see what you personally learned through the process. So capture your learning experiences for each block on this template.
I've got one more video just about the program, and this takes us to the end of the course. Everything that we do on the course kind of culminates in one day right at the end, which is your presentation day. And that's the day where you stand in front of the class and you present the action plans that you implemented at work, how they worked out, and what you learned. Yeah, let's hear this video. It explains it quite succinctly.
This video deals with your final presentation on the new managers program. The presentation is a big deal on this course. It's the culmination of a whole program's worth of effort. This is the part of the course where you tell the story of how you implemented the theory that you learned on course. And it counts for a lot of marks. It makes up a substantial part of your final mark. Consider the vital role that your portfolio of evidence plays in preparing for your presentation. And this means that a lot of your final mark will be about what you implemented practically at work during the year and how you tell the story about this at the end. The good news is, in this video, we're going to strike a deal with you. We'll teach you some great presentation skills on this course, and we'll show you some fantastic design ideas, and we'll show you how to prepare excellently for that final presentation. All of this so that you can maximize your marks on the NMP. But this is all going to happen in block 4. So, until then, you keep building a great portfolio of evidence throughout the year. And if you do that, you can look forward to celebrating a very successful new managers program.
Here's my Teams. Okay, I'm going to. Am I still online? Dion, Marie, tell me, you guys can hear me still there?
Yes, you are all good.
Okay, good. Okay, good. The last video, I don't think I'm still sharing my screen anymore, am I?
I can see your desktop, Jonathan.
Don't look at that. Let's So I am sharing a screen for that matter then.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yeah. Are we looking at, okay, I can see which screen we're sharing. So here's one last video, which I'm not going to play to you now, because I recommend that after today, once you've gone through a lot of information, and you still got a whole subject starting today as well, I would recommend that just to sort of refresh on everything that I've discussed or shared with you, that you come and watch this New Managers, the end of a block, what next video on your own. And that video will outline to you basically what's the next step and just recap the most important things in your approach. But if you haven't picked it up, if I can just put it in a sort of 3-sentence soundbite for you, your process for the NMP is to do the following. You're going to attend a block. You've already started attending a block. You're on that block now. And then straight after that block, which is a group of classes, you're going to sit down and draw a plan of action based on what you learned and things that you're going to do that you learned back at work, which you'll discuss with your mentor, and then you'll go forward and implement that. And during that block, time will pass, work will happen, and then we'll get to the end of the block. And by the end of the block, you would have submitted assignments and they would have been marked, and you'll have a meeting with me, your coach, again. And I'd be interested to see at that point, what have you personally learned throughout the process, etc., etc. So it's a process that repeats throughout the year. And at the end of it all, we meet for a big presentation that I would have prepared you well for, and you talk about your year in a very short, punchy presentation. Okay. And that's it from me regarding orientation. Now, should I take a bit of time for Q&A? I'm just looking at our time. I think we're heading for past the 10:30 time here. Dion, Marie, do you want to move on to the next topic?
Jonathan, maybe some Q&A, but another 5 to 10 minutes. Yolandi would just like to introduce herself as well, and then I just want to conclude and what is next.
Okay, good. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then I've got some time for Q&A. You guys have any questions that you want to ask? Normally I find if I ask that in a big group like this, I don't get a lot of responses. So I'm just going to give you time just to tell me if you have some specific questions. And let me see if I can handle them. Any questions coming through?
Hi, Jonathan. This is Ketiwe. I just wanted to find out from you guys, are we actually getting any physical books since this has now become an online course, or is everything going to be online? Is there any material that will be posted to us or not?
Okay, cool. Let me take a few more questions and then we'll just work through them all in one shot. Any other questions you want to shout out? Thanks for asking that question. You know, you probably weren't the only person thinking that. So when you ask a question, you probably speak for some others too. Nice of you. Thanks.
Sure.
Anybody else got something that was confusing or something that we mentioned but we didn't describe it well? Any other questions?
Well, maybe while we are waiting for somebody else, you're welcome to chat, to enter your question there or raise your hand. Well, in the meantime, everything will be available on Canvas. Your study material, your manual, your guide for you able to download. All the documentations and the videos that Jonathan discussed this morning will also be available on Canvas for you to refer to or access anytime should you wish to do so.
Thanks, Marie. It looks like did somebody say I have one? I know that's a question from 20 minutes ago. Oh, okay. That was the chat bar. No, I don't see any questions coming through. Guys, one last shout. Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay, good. Listen, there's probably a lot of questions. Was that a question coming through, or is that all microphones dead now? Okay. You know what? You probably will have a lot of questions, and I find students figure it out as they go along. You basically need to get through this first block, get to the end of it. You're going to have an awesome time when you start your first subject right now. So when your facilitators just come online, and I think I'm going to hand over back to Dion to keep chairing the meeting, and I hope to chat with you guys throughout the rest of the program. Thanks for hearing me out.
Jonathan, thank you for giving them an overview of all the logistics involved. I think you've done an excellent job compiling those videos for us. And just for your information, students, the whole... Sorry? Could everybody just mute their microphones? Thank you. Canvas, your LMS, which you're now familiar with because you participated in the Rainbow Nations short course, is set up in a specific sequence. In other words, when you first now log into Canvas, you will be required to go through the rules and click a button to say, I read and understood it. Then you will see sequentially, you will go through every little video that Jonathan just explained and showed you. You'll go through them again to make sure that you get a proper insight into the flow of this program. And only as you progress through every step, the next piece of the puzzle is being unlocked. So you're going to go through orientation work today in Canvas. That'll also help you find your feet. And once you've done all the evaluation, orientation work on Canvas, and you completed the online evaluation form of this session, then your leadership module will unlock. So with that said, I also want to unlock your leadership facilitator with this session, Yolandi Conradi. Heartily welcome to you as well, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yolandi will tell you more about who she is and what she does. The important message that I would like to convey is we always start programs like this off with a leadership module. This is the holding up the mirror part of the program that I referred to earlier. Sometimes people don't have an insight into their own profile to the extent that they don't appreciate themselves for the value that they really bring to the team, specifically from a leadership perspective. But like I said earlier, if you don't have that deep self-appreciation, you're never quite in a position to appreciate all the diversity in your team and how to deal with it. And that's what Yolandi is going to facilitate for you. My wish for you is that she gets under your skin and that you confront a little bit of those demons and that you cry a few tears and that you reflect and you look hard at yourself, because that's where the true value then comes and you're a totally changed person going back to your team. Yolandi, thank you.
Thanks so much. Good morning, everybody. Just for now, for 3 seconds, please switch off your your unmute and just say hi to me. I just want to hear the people behind the little dots and the pictures and do we have people out there? Hi!
Yeah.
Real people. Good. Thank you. Let's mute again.
Hi, Andy.
Ah, it's great to hear the voices. Thank you. I'm so privileged to be with you guys this morning, guys and girls. I have recently been wrapped over the knuckles for using, and I've worked with a very British group of people, and they routinely say, you guys, and I started doing that without realizing that I was taking on their habit of saying you guys when I'm actually speaking to men and women. So someone said to me, you know that you guys expression of you is very sexist, so I'm apologizing ahead of time if I say you guys. I mean you guys and ladies and whatever. So anyway, I'm really privileged to be with all of you this morning. And I'm always excited when we start this course because I get to know you well and you get to know yourself well. And it's tough learning sometimes, and it's not tough because necessarily of the academic load of the work, but it's tough because sometimes you have to do introspection and reflect on things that are not pleasant to deal with. They're uncomfortable truths, but we walk away from that so much better. And This morning, as I sat thinking about you all and just the start of this course, I was reminded of something that someone told me about a year ago. And he said, you know, roughly half the technology you're going to use in 5 years' time have not been invented yet. That sort of gives one a moment for pause and think, wow, I mean, the world around us is already full of technology. What could there possibly be that's not invented yet? Well, the thing is, we don't know. And did you know the country with the most English speakers on earth is China? Do you realize that less than 3 months ago, the landscape of our lives looked completely different? Some industries that existed then won't survive. And industries that did not exist then were birthed in the meantime. So if we ask the question, what is going to be organizations' competitive advantage in the future? There's one answer, and that's people. Talent, energy, insight, opportunity, creative thinking in any organization lie with its people. On the top 10 list of skills for the future, we have things such as problem solving, creative thinking, and people management. Because in the end, we work with people. It's people who make things work, and it's people who do the work. It's not work that does people. It's not that way around. People are our most important resource. And I don't even like calling them a resource. It's just that without people, our organizations don't even exist. So what I'm asking from you this morning is, while you are busy with this course, while you're busy with coursework, busy with material, busy going through your modules, you know what we do as humans, eh? We're either in fast forward, we're thinking of the things that need to happen tonight, tomorrow, what we're going to eat, what we're going to do the weekend, going to the bottle store on Monday, whatever. Or we're in rewind, we long for things as they were maybe, or we fret about things that we can't go back and go and change. I'm asking you, while you're busy with your coursework, just press play. Don't be in fast forward and don't be in rewind. Just be present in the moment. Just be there. Bring yourself to all your sessions. Learn to understand. Don't learn to get it done with. And approach your assignments from the smallest mini assignment to the biggest one at the end of your modules. Approach your assignment not to get it done. Approach your assignment to give it 100%, to learn as much as you can, to apply your new knowledge as good as you can. That's my biggest request from you. My commitment to you is, I'm telling you beforehand, don't say you didn't know. I'm very strict on any form of plagiarism, presenting work as your own work. That's not your own work. Ooh, if you don't believe me, you can just talk to Dion, ask him. But my commitment to you is, and I'm not very good on email, but I'm great on WhatsApp. So I will be as responsive as I possibly can under circumstances. Sometimes I'm just very busy and it takes a while to get back to someone, but I welcome students engaging and connecting with me if they have questions, if they're not certain about something, if they need explanation, because then I know both you and I have worked to give you the best possible outcome. So I'll be there for you. We're going to do video calls, one-on-one, group calls. We're going to laugh, we're going to have fun, but we're also going to learn. And I also want you to know right from the get-go that our sessions will be safe spaces. You don't have to have perfect language skills. English isn't my first language either. You don't have to feel you have to express yourself perfectly to have a voice in the meetings. Everybody has a voice, and I would like to hear all of those voices. So bring yourself. I'm going to bring myself, and together we are going to make this course a great experience. And if this point I was a preacher, if at this point I would have asked you, may I please have an amen? But I'm not going to do that. So all I'm asking you is bring yourself to the course. I will bring me to the course, and can I at least have a thumbs up or switch on your microphone and say yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. Let's listen to
Yes.
that.
Yay!
I'm looking forward to our first sessions, guys and girls. Enjoy your coursework that you will start with today, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Marie.
Yolandi, and thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. We took a little bit more of your time than expected, but you can imagine now the importance of this session. Furthermore, you are all wondering what now? What's going to happen now? What to do now? So good. I will now, in the next half an hour, 1 hour, I will send you another link directly to the new managers program. This will give you access to the program, and you will have a nice page opening up, and at the bottom you will see start course. So as Dion explained, you just have to click on the start button and it will take you through the NMP orientation section, rules and assessments, etc., that you have to work through, as Dion said, before the block 1 will unlock. So that's what you will do from now on. You can expect a link within the next half an hour or so. And that is it from my side. Dion, I don't know if you perhaps have a few words or conclusion.
Thank you, Marie. No, I think all that was supposed to be said was said. Yolandi, once again, thank you for joining us. We all have busy days ahead, so we need to get going. I think the final message here is, like Yolandi said, and also what I echoed earlier, do it for yourself, do it for your own development, keep your eye on the ball, and have great fun with this program. And it will open up doors for you in your careers moving forward. Very important is don't get stuck. Don't suckle. Okay. Immediately make contact with the team if you get stuck in any way. There shouldn't be a reason for that, so that we don't waste time and we can move you forward on the program. Marie, that's that for me. Thank you very much. I'm going to have to run to a next meeting. I'm going to sit into a next meeting. So it was nice seeing all of you, and we'll catch up again in future. Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks, Marie. Thanks, team. Go well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, you're welcome to email me. Please remember that. I see everybody's leaving. Nice to have seen all of you.
Thanks, Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.